everybody out there in podcast land. This is episode number 188 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is October 23rd, 2024. My guest is Tanya in Colorado. No announcements this week, so we will jump right in.
Hello, listeners. I have Tanya with us today, and you might know her from the Facebook group. Her name has a unique spelling, so it is Tanya. And how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on, and tell us where you're located.
I'm in Broomfield, Colorado, a suburb of Denver.
Okay. Is that kind of a affluent area?
Well, not really. If you go further to the west, you hit Boulder. That's where the affluence really starts there. I mean, I suppose there's pockets of Broomfield that are.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not good at geography, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're kind of new to the group, I think.
Yeah, pretty new. I'm pretty new to the whole eBay thing, really. Have just been doing it about a year now.
It doesn't seem like it.
Well,
Some great sales.
my husband started us off on it, and I hesitantly was dragged along until I got hooked, and now I've just kind of been like, this is really fun. I really like it.
It's that saying, what you resist persists.
Maybe, because that's certainly how it worked out here.
Well, tell us how that all evolved, like what got you into it.
Well, so my husband, he decided, so I have a daughter who's a sophomore in college this year. So last year when she was going into college, he said, we're going to start selling stuff on eBay to pay for our daughter's college education. And I laughed at him because I was like, I don't even know, right? And so he started off, he had a bunch, he used to be really into D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. And
Really?
he had a bunch of books and stuff from that, which
Okay.
those were worth far more than I realized. So when he started selling those, I was like, oh, he might be onto something here, you know? So, but he jumped in with both feet. He is a really good operations guy. So he built a thing for taking the pictures. He ordered boxes. He has a whole, had the whole setup, converted the basement, which is a finished basement that we didn't use very often, basically converted that into warehouse space, right? So when I did, let's see, I started probably helping in about September of last year. We went to a garage sale down the street, and the lady used to host Partylight and House of Lloyd's parties, which I'd never even seen the House of Lloyd's stuff, but it's all a bunch of Christmas stuff from the 80s.
Okay.
So we made a deal with her and bought all of that. So then it was kind of jump in with both feet and learn about listing them. It was a really good way to learn about packing things, because a lot of the House of Lloyd's stuff was kind of fragile and floating boxes and that sort of thing. And it was a good listing to process in that it was very similar items. So you get into a groove and kind of learn what works and what doesn't. So I liked that aspect of it. Also learned that when you have candles for a long time, they do lose their scent. And we were like, oh no. So we just called that out and still sold. I think we might have a few left, but really we sold through almost all of that. I got a bunch of House of Lloyd's Christmas stuff left. We probably sold 75% of that, but it was a big haul when we got it.
So were the buyers telling you that the candles didn't smell right, or did you just figure that out?
We figured that out when we
Okay.
figured out they weren't as strong as we anticipated they were. So we just said it had lost it. Nobody complained. Everybody was perfectly fine with it.
Well, I think some of the El Cheapo candles are the opposite. Like the older they get, the worse they smell, and they're just
Maybe
wrong.
Yeah, right. There was nothing wrong with the candles. A few of them you could see where they'd been stored someplace where it was too hot. I don't know if they were in a garage or where they were, but so some of them got thrown away for that reason.
Well, it's good to know that people still buy Partylight.
They do. Yeah.
Is that still an active business, or did that go away?
I don't know. I don't think so, because everything we sold was called out as discontinued or no longer available.
Okay. I see those all the time, like the boxes at thrift stores.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'll open it and it'll be like, there should be 6 in there and there's 2 in there. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody pilfered that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we had some mixed lots when we had stuff like that, but people still buy them. I mean, they were cheap. We didn't make a mint on them or anything like that. But like I said, it was a good learning process. So
Okay,
after
so
that, I started looking for more stuff kind of on my own. And then you get kind of just, you get a couple big wins and you're like, all right, I'm hooked. I'm hooked.
yeah, you've done really well. I thought when I saw you come in the group, I'm like, this lady's been doing it a long time.
No, just about a year now. So
So you and your husband do it together.
we did. He has kind of fallen off. He kind of
We
got
did,
over
but
it.
now we're not married anymore.
No, we're still married. And he'll still go source with me on the weekends sometimes. But as far as getting into the daily grind of the listing and the packing and all of that, I'm doing all that. He'll help with, like I said, he's a good operations guy and he handles the bookkeeping side of it also. So we do that part of it together, but not as much as when we were initially down there in the basement listing everything together all the time. So
Right, getting it going.
yeah.
Are you both gainfully employed, retired? What's your life like?
Yeah, we both are full-time in working outside of this.
Mm-hmm.
Not as close to retirement as I wish I was.
Is this something you're building for retirement?
That's the hope. Once I started doing it, I was like, hey, I can see a path here for some extra money in retirement. I would love to be able to do it that way because I still enjoy it. As long as I'm enjoying it, why not? It's a hobby for me that I can make money on, you know?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
really like it. I like finding the stuff and kind of saving it from the landfill or trash or just saving it from going to someone losing that memory of what it was, I really enjoy that part of it.
Well, I think when new people get involved in this, and the smart ones know it's going to take a while. Your things are not going to sell immediately. Sometimes they do, but especially if you are heading into retirement, it's like you're building this for later.
Yeah, right. Keeping that algorithm going and all of that. And I have
Right.
fallen off on listing over the last probably 3 weeks. I'm not listing as consistently as I used to. Just life's gotten busy and a lot going on in the fall. So as things are going to settle down here now, I want to get back into it because sales have slumped for me anyway. I know everybody's talking about that really. They've really slumped for me as well. And I'm not helping myself by not staying consistent with my listing. I'm still selling stuff every week. Almost every day I'm selling stuff, but not as much as I was. So you can see where we went over 1,000 listings at one point, probably about 6 months ago. Now I have probably 920 listed, something like that, because I'm selling and not replenishing as much,
Well, that's still great
Yeah,
to
yeah.
have that many listings.
Yeah, that was a lot of just like grinding it out, right?
Right. You just grind, just get it done. Right.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And you said your daughter is in college, so are you empty nesters?
Not yet. My son is a senior in high school.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens after he graduates. I don't know if he'll leave and go away to school or if he'll stay here and go to school and go to community college. I don't know.
Or
Who knows
live
what the
under a
future
bridge.
holds?
Who knows? I thought my son was gonna end up living under a bridge because he did not, he never had to do homework. He was just very smart and didn't have
Yeah.
to, put a lot of effort in to get good grades and never cleaned his room. And my daughter's like, gosh, Mitchell's room smells like feet and Doritos. And he was always playing video games. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to be living
This
with
is sounding very, very
He's going to be living with
familiar.
me till he's 40 and he's going to be playing video games. Oh my God, he's never going to get. And he did fine.
Yeah.
Now he works it's the city of Marietta down in Georgia. As he's an IT guy. He makes
Yeah.
incredible money. He loves his job.
That's nice.
He got through college in 5 years instead of 4 because he fooled around the first year and lost the Hope Scholarship. And we were like, okay, you got to figure it out. And so he worked part-time and paid his way. And that was a lesson.
Yeah.
My
son right now is going to
free money.
Yeah, right. My son,
Like,
his senior year, he's doing some, he's learning, he's half of his day is spent in technical school and learning to be an EMT right now. So
Oh,
he'd like to pursue
wonderful.
that and end up working for a fire department eventually. But we'll see. I love that he started there and learning it his senior year at least, So we'll
Well, a
see where
very
it goes.
wise quote. I actually went to counseling when my kids were teenagers, single mom. I was terrified of them driving, not that they would do something wrong, just all the crazy people on the road. And
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, my son, he's just never going to get it together. He's so smart. He just doesn't apply himself and yada, yada. And she says, we all have that one child we think is going to end up living under a bridge, but he won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can change. So I feel you with the senior in high school thing. Good. So do you sell any of his stuff on eBay, like as he outgrows his shoes every 2 weeks?
Um, I have sold some of his stuff, but he's kind of stopped growing now. And we sold at one point when my husband first started into this thing, he bought a couple of storage units too, which
Oh,
we had done that back in 2006. When the construction downfall and that kind of thing. He's an electrical engineer. So
mhm.
he got laid off. And my dad was like, well, you can like buy a storage unit and sell this stuff. And this was before storage wars and that kind of thing. So we were like,
Right.
don't know
It
anything about it.
wasn't cool yet.
Right, right. This is when, you actually went to the storage unit and bid on stuff, right?
Right.
So I was working and he was doing that then full time. So that was really interesting to me because just trying to figure out the story behind all the stuff in there, um,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. But so and that was just stuff he was selling on Craigslist, right? We didn't
Uh-huh.
do any of that on eBay. So when we got back into this, he did buy a few units and we were selling stuff on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that was surprising too, where it's like one of the units he got, he was like, oh, this is a reseller's unit. I'm like, I don't even know what you mean by that. And it was all stuff that somebody was going to resell. Some of it was tagged. Some of the stuff that I remember there was this green glass fish. And I was like, what are we going to do with this? I'm like, we listed it and it sold. I'm like, well, there you go. You just never know.
Did
But
you find a copy of the Declaration of Independence in an old desk or anything?
No, we didn't have any windfalls in there, unfortunately. And I would much rather pick and choose, right? I don't want to buy another unit and have to figure out what to do with all of that stuff. I would much rather pick and choose.
Yeah, be a cherry picker. I know.
Yeah,
I'm attracted to the storage unit idea too, but sometimes they don't even let you see it. They just open it and it's like stacks of, Rubbermaid tubs that are not clear. You can't see what's in there, and
right,
you have to take it.
right. I think it was yesterday's episode I was listening, or I listened to it yesterday, an episode with a gentleman on there talking about a storage unit he bought, and he was saying he could walk through it. Like
Jeremy, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that was never an experience we ever had. It was always stand at the edge of the unit and
Uh-huh.
bid from there. And just, I mean, people would, take binoculars or things and
Right, right.
you could not step foot into that unit. That was a violation of with the storage place. But, and then of course you have your online ones now and you just try and see what's there. But yeah, we never got to go rummage through it or walk through it and decide if we wanted it or
Well,
not.
I guess that's part of the attraction is it's a gamble and you don't know what you're gonna get. And
Right.
you know what? Could be a box of gold and silver, could be a box of spiders. You don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We've found some stuff that you're like, okay, we found drug paraphernalia,
Oh,
things
really?
like that in them. Yeah.
Well, you can find that at the Goodwill bins. You don't have
Oh,
to go to
yeah.
the
Yeah.
storage unit
Right.
for
I've only
that.
been there once. We went once. I would go again, but we went once and I didn't know anything about how it worked. And when they, there's just people rummaging through and I'm like, okay. And then they made everybody get back and I'm like, what is going on? I had no idea. Everybody was getting back behind the edge of the lines when they were changing out the tables.
Oh,
Did you do
right.
that when you
Okay.
got? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they were like, okay, go ahead and go, walk, don't run, and everybody was running. I'm like,
Like
oh
tackling
my
each other.
God.
Right. Was this recently or a while back?
No, this was probably probably last October. So like
Oh,
almost
okay. So pretty recently, like
early
it
on.
wasn't
Yeah.
10 years ago.
No, no,
It
no, no, no.
used to be
Yeah.
all these YouTube videos about shopping at the bins and all the fights, and it was so aggressive and people beating each other up. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going there. I'm not cut out for that. It's not like
Yeah.
supposed to be a contact sport,
Right.
you know?
I've
But
only went that
then
one time and I didn't see any of that. So that's
yeah, I
good.
think it's calmed down a lot over the years, but some of them still, there's a new one near me in South Carolina. It's about an hour away, but they ring a bell every time they're going to change the bins out, and you have to step away, like you said. And it's somebody on either TikTok or YouTube videos it, and it's pretty crazy. So you got to be cut out for that kind of thing. Like bring a bodyguard with you or something.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like much fun.
No, and I've been to different ones, and there was one in Missouri, and they open from 10 to 1, and then they close for 2 hours, and they open again from 3 to 6, and they change everything out in the middle of the day. So every time they open at 3, it's all different than when you were there before. And then when they close at 6, they do the same thing. So the next morning, it's all different again.
So
And
the table, when they bring the stuff out, is it the same stuff that stays there from 3 to 6 then?
no, it's all different. And
Still changing it, huh?
there's a huge parking lot, like a truck stop next to it, and there's all these tractor trailers that have Goodwill on them. And so what they do is put it out from 10 to 1, whatever's left goes in that tractor trailer and goes somewhere else, and they bring all new stuff out, all completely different. So people actually just camp out and just go there and stay for days, because you're seeing new things twice a day.
Yeah, right.
So but be prepared. There's people tag teaming in there, and like the t-shirt people and the jeans people, and everybody has their thing they're looking for.
Yeah.
So but hey, you tried it, so I commend you. Well, let's talk about some things you sold.
Okay. One of my most memorable sales was actually a teacup. And I had stopped by an estate sale on a Friday afternoon, or I don't know when it was. I think it was a late Friday. And they had these teacups, and they had one that was was marked $5. And I don't know anything about teacups. I did a quick scan on the code on the bottom, and it looked like there was some sailing. So I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Right. So I get it home and I started doing more research on it. And I was like, I was able to, I wrote down what the brand was. KPM was the brand. I'd never even heard of it. But I was able to determine that it was from the 1840s, just because
Really?
they changed what the code looked like on the stamp or whatever you call it. They changed what that looked like through the years. So I was able to identify it to the 1840s, but I wasn't able to come up with what was a good value on it. And I hadn't been doing any auctions, just buy it now stuff. And so I was talking to my husband about it, and he was like, well, why don't you try and put it on an auction? And I was like, okay, So I thought, well, I'll start it at 50, right? Because if I got $50 for this cup and saucer, that'd be pretty cool. I paid $5 for it. And so I set it up for the auction, and the way I set it up, you had to put a buy it now price on it. Because I think I asked for immediate payment or something like that. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I'm just like, okay. So the buy it now price, I'm like, I don't know, like $150 too. I put $200, So I started the auction, and like 10 minutes later it sold for the $200.
Really?
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm running and telling my husband, oh my God, that just sold. And then of course I'm like, I wonder what it's really worth, because it sold in 10
Did I
minutes.
give that away?
Right. I never did any more research, because anyway, I might be disappointed, but
You might
still.
have found out that Laura Ingalls Wilder drank out of it or something.
Right. But I was thrilled with my $200 sale,
Yeah, I know. You can't second guess yourself. I had some up for sale last week I paid $3 for it. I had it up for 200 because prices were all over the board. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
price it. So I'm like, I was gonna put 200 for buy it now. And I got an offer of 120 in just a few days. And I'm like, I'm taking it for $3 and I can flip it for that kind of money in a few days. I need to do about 20 things like that a week.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So yeah, just be happy with what you got. And people
Yeah.
think that if it sells fast, that you price it too low. But do you know about the email alerts?
Yes. Well, I do now, right? So people watch for certain things.
Right. So if you
You know?
search for something and it'll say save this search. So you want a Speedo swimsuit to go swim laps or whatever. That's my search. And so you can save the search. And so every time anything with those keywords are listed, you get an email notification. So it could have been somebody like that was just
Yeah.
waiting for it.
I think it probably was. I think it probably
Because
was.
if it sold that fast for the asking price, now I know Steve Gittler is listening. He would have said, you should never put a buy it now on it. He's all like, auction, just let it go for what it is and don't take offers and don't put a buy it now. But you were new, you didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't
And
know.
now you're thinking, from now on, if I find something interesting like that, just auction and it'll go for what it goes. But
Right.
in order to click that immediate payment required, you have to have a buy it now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's probably how you got hooked into that.
It was. Yep.
Okay. Well, still, was that sort of when you were a beginner?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was like
But what a find.
I know, right? All these little things, and you just start going, huh,
Is
I'm
that the
hooked.
one that got you hooked?
It was pretty close. There was another one that I found a pottery vase and at the thrift store. You guys talk about St. Vinny's. We don't have St. Vinny's here, but we have, I don't know if it's like the Ark. We have the Ark here as a Colorado thrift store.
And what does that support?
That supports mentally disabled.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's a solid organization. It's a good
Yeah, I've heard
organization.
of it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
a lot of these things are regional.
Yeah. So I found a vase there on the bottom shelf, kind of tucked back, right? And it was signed. And it just looked like a nice pottery vase. And I brought it home, did a little research. I paid $7.50 for it. It was originally $50 or $15, but it was half price day on that tag. So got it for $7.50. Did a little research, and the artist had done a lot of things that were like shapes of plants and different things with their pottery, but not very many vases. So it was hard for me to find a value on it. So I think I started it out at like $125. And then my sister came over, and she is used to throw pottery and is very artistic and stuff. And she helped me with identifying some of the things. She was telling me some of the things about it. And I was like, ooh, so I added some of those keywords and I increased the price to $150, and it sold probably within a month or so. So,
Nice.
that was very exciting too. So a couple of those kind of things, and that you get hooked,
You sold some fancy things.
Yeah, right. And then some of the things that surprised me that sell, we went to an estate sale, and it was a high-end estate sale. It was a fantastic house actually, but um I'm looking around, and I bumped this plastic box that was sitting on the floor, and it was full of dust bags, like Louboutin shoes. Those
Oh,
dust bags,
okay, right. Your high-end shoes that have
high-end
dust
shoe
bags.
bags,
Yeah, I've
right?
sold just those bags before.
Yeah, so this was a box full of bags, a
Oh,
variety
okay.
of different name brands, mostly Louboutins though. Um, and so I was like, how much for this box? Well, I got it for $15. And when I sold, this was kind of fun last night, looking back at this stuff I sold, because then I was doing some math.
Yeah.
So on those bags, I paid $15 for them. And with all the sales that we had on them, I made over $400 was the sale on them.
Just on those
So
bags.
just on empty bags,
Well,
empty
now
bags.
you got to think that's an affluent person that keeps their shoes in bags.
Yes. I know. It's
that
like,
buys
where are
shoes
the
that come with,
shoes?
right, that buys shoes that come with those dust bags. That is somebody who is affluent, or maybe has a lot of credit card debt. I don't know. If you
Yeah, I
can't
don't know.
pronounce it, you shouldn't be wearing it. You can't
That
afford
that same sale, they had a bunch of they brought out a bunch of empty boxes that were like Hermes, Louis Vuitton,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And so I was like, how much for that pile of boxes? And she's like, I'll do the same deal as on the bags, 15 bucks. So
Mhm.
I bought all those and listed and sold those too. So
Just the boxes.
just the box, it's just an empty box, right? I found
Mhm.
a watch box at an estate sale one day, and it was probably like, it was a good sized box, probably like about 6 by 6 for a watch box, pretty good size,
Mhm.
right? A cube. And it was fancy. Like the name I didn't recognize, and I can't remember it right now, but like you'd open it up and then a drawer would come out or whatever. It was a really nice box, but it was a cardboard box. Um, but I picked that up for $2, and then that sold for $65 within just a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
So it's just like, you don't know. I mean, empty boxes. So then my my husband, they switched out the iPads at work where he works. And so he
Mhm.
brought home the empty boxes. He's like, I learned something from you. All these empty boxes. I can tell you those don't sell as well though. I got
No,
them.
they don't, but sometimes they do. It's just I save all my computer stuff like that. The stickers, the chargers, adapters, whatever you're not going to use.
Yeah,
Because the used phone stores, they'll say the used phones, they need the
right.
boxes. So, but isn't that amazing? It's just cardboard.
Yeah, right.
And what people will pay for, really, when you get down to it, it's just paper.
It is, yeah. There's not even anything in it. There's no there's,
Right, right.
I think it was
Just
just this week I sold my Gucci box, which I hadn't been able to sell in quite a while. It was for a pet collar. It took me a while to figure out what was supposed to go in it. It was because of a different
really.
shape and really a cute little box. But I can't remember what it sold for, 25 or $30. But it's like, it's just a box, you know?
Who
So,
knew? Right.
but I mean, the collar that goes in it is probably $400
Of
for a
course.
pet collar.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I guess 25 for a box isn't
So
bad.
let me ask, what is you're gainfully employed in what profession?
I'm a sales manager and I work in the food service distribution business. So we sell
Okay.
food to restaurants.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've worked in several different areas of the company. And so before being in sales, I was in procurement, in purchasing. So also when we got back into, or when we got into this in the first place and Lynn was buying stuff, my husband, that's where the name comes from for my store. Lynn is my husband. Lynn's Good Stuff.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, so I'm managing inventory. It was kind of fun because it was like my real job, right? I have a warehouse full of food where I'm managing turns and managing you know, aged inventory that's sitting on the shelf. You're talking about how long it takes to sell something or something. So
Right.
this is like a little microcosm of my own company
Yes.
of I'm in the distribution business. This is still the distribution business, right? I mean, reselling, but it
Well,
is
I call it, and
distributing.
I got this from a teenager at the grocery store. Um, he was putting stuff on the shelf, just stocking the shelf.
Yeah.
And on his name tag, it was like Daniel, redistribution specialist. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? He says, I get stuff from the back and I bring it out here. I'm like, that's what I am too.
Right.
I'm a
Right.
redistribution specialist
That's right. That's
or a
right.
professional scavenger, whichever mood I'm in that day.
I like to think we connect people with their dreams. And like
Yeah.
uh I can't think of the word now when it's something that brings back memories. Um I can't think of it now, but connecting people with these little things that meant so much to them before or whatever. It's nice.
I knew you were a numbers person. I just
You did?
well, being in sales, you're a numbers person, you're
Yeah,
always looking
yeah.
at the numbers. So I just picked up on that. And then calling your storage area your warehouse.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
knows something with inventory or, just
Right.
the words.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
exposed myself.
transition. That's a good transition to eBay, because now you don't have to worry about perishable foods.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
This is more fun.
that's that's got to be stressful in your regular job, all of the logistics of having things delivered, um, especially if they're frozen or cold.
Yeah, it's a pretty
No.
fast-paced industry, that's for sure. Because the
Mm-hmm.
minute you we handle everything from produce to the paper plates, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
produce, as soon as you pick it, it starts dying. So
Mm-hmm.
you gotta get it sold. They say, or like fresh proteins like chicken or something.
Right.
You just gotta keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good for you. And how many years you have left until you might want to retire?
Till I want to retire or till I can
Well, I don't
retire.
know. Some people love their job and they don't want to retire, and some people
Well, that's
know how
true.
many days
As
and
long as
minutes.
as long as I'm still having fun doing what I'm doing in my
Right?
9 to 5,
Okay.
hey, keep doing that.
Can I ask what
Um,
year you were born?
1968.
Oh, okay. So you're 2 years younger than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on the threshold there of like, well, what do I
Starting
want
to
to
think
do in the
about
next
it.
decade? Yeah.
Starting to try and plan, like, what is it going to look like? What do I want to be doing?
Right,
You know?
right. Well, I just love meeting people in our generation. You're a Gen X, that they're just like getting this eBay business ready to transition into, because I know I've said this many times, just from my own observations, retirement can be quite depressing. You lose your sense of purpose.
Right.
What am I going to do every day when I get up?
Right.
And you feel like your life might be over because you don't have all the responsibility, you don't have the schedule. um that whole losing the sense of purpose is really the doorway to depression.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so my husband and I've been talking about it. We definitely don't want it to go down that road. I don't want to be sitting around the house wondering what I'm going to do with myself. It's
And some
kind of
people
a
are, oh,
plan.
when I retire, I'm going to just travel and do all this stuff. And some people just like, that's exhausting, I don't want to do that.
Right. And it exhausts your money as well.
Well, and the older you get, the harder it is. The
Right. That's the thing.
long
Where's your sweet
distance.
spot, right? When can I
Yeah.
retire and travel before it's hard for me to go up and down the stairs or
It's
whatever
like
it
when you
is?
have the money to do it, you don't have the time because you're busy. And then when you have the time to do it, you might not have the energy to do it.
Right.
10 days in Italy, going to all the landmarks and everything just sounds exhausting to me now. And I'm not even 60 yet.
Yeah.
Just give me a nice chair on the edge of a lake or something, and I'm happy. So anyway, okay, so you have any other sales you want to talk about, or other experiences in the reselling world?
Well, I have another sale that was kind of fun, and it was really early also, which is another one that kind of got me hooked. I just happened to be listening to a podcast. It wasn't yours, but it was another one. And they were talking about the BOLOs, right? They had a
Right.
BOLO. This was January of this year.
Okay.
And they were saying that 1996 calendars are a BOLO. And I was like,
Yes, because it's the same, the days are the same or something.
right, everything lined up, the same election day, everything lined up, was leap year,
Okay.
that whole deal, right? So I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? So I happened to be going to an estate sale the next day. It was a Saturday, and one of my friends was with me. She'd never been to an estate sale, and she's like, I'll go with you. And of course, I've told her this whole story about the calendars because I just thought it was fascinating. So we go to this estate sale. We go down in the basement, and there's this room off to the side, and there's all these Time magazines and all kinds of stuff in there, and this stack of calendars. And I was like, oh, look. So I start flipping through these calendars, and there's a 1996 one. And I told my friend, I'm like, wasn't it 1996? Wasn't that the year I said? And she's like, yeah, that's it. And I'm like, I'm taking this. And I was like, I'm just going to take this whole stack because I'm like, who knows, right? So I get upstairs to the cash register, and I was like, I got some other stuff, and I was like, and I got these calendars. They didn't have a price on them. And she goes, you know what? You can take those. My son thought I was crazy for putting them out. I'm just happy that someone wanted them. So just take them. So I'm like, okay. So I took them. So I listed that calendar, and it was an X Files. calendar.
Oh,
None of these calendars had any writing on them. They were all open and unsealed, but they didn't have any writing in them.
okay.
And this was the only one in the stack that was 1996, but I listed that, and that sold for $59.99 within a week.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh my gosh. So then I also realized X-Files has a cult following.
Yes.
So I haven't found a lot of,
Truth is out there.
yeah, right. Right. So then I was looking on eBay when it was for sale, because I was like, okay, this is January, right? So who else has these 1996 calendars on here? What are they asking for? Am I priced right? You know, and then I found a calendar seller who had a bunch of X-Files 1996 sealed calendars. So I'm like, okay. So I bought 10 of those from him or her, whoever that was, and paid 13 bucks a piece with shipping to get those delivered. And those, I sold through all of them anywhere from, I averaged $34 a piece on them. And one of them I gave to my brother-in-law because he was an X-Files fan.
Uh-huh.
But of course, as I got through the year, I mean, we're getting into March, and I'm like, okay, this is the ticking time bomb. This thing has a shelf life, you know? So
Yeah.
I was lowering the price as we were getting further in through the year. But yeah, that was one of my, when I bought the 10 calendars off eBay, and it was like $130. And I'm like, oh, taking a chance. I don't know.
Yeah. Big purchase.
So,
Now
but yeah,
you
so,
bought a truckload.
right. My husband's buying storage units. I'm like, I don't know, it's 10 calendars. But
Well, but this begs the question, does that happen every 28 years? Because 96 was 28 years. I only know that because my son, who should be living under a bridge, was born in that year. So he's 28. And I had heard that earlier in the year that was a thing, the 96 calendars.
I think it must happen every year. Yeah, this one had more key dates on it for sure because it was an election year and it was leap year, right? So a
Right.
couple of distinct things there with it. Um, but I don't know because the other calendars I've still got sitting downstairs. And I haven't listed those or really investigated those too much.
Well,
But there's one.
do you remember the Susan Wingate calendars? It was through the Hallmark store, and it was like folk art stuff and like hearts and very folk art, almost like Daisy Kingdom dresses, but calendars and stationery and stuff. And her name is Susan Wingate.
I think I know which ones you're talking about.
Her calendars are collectible. It doesn't matter what year. It's just because she was an artist and that's something she did. She's still alive, but it was very popular. That was her heyday of she started off, I want to say she was in Atlanta selling stuff at the Atlanta Gift Mart. And then she got involved with Hallmark and creating all this stationery. And, that was back when everybody had a wall calendar in their kitchen, and it was all the folk art time with everyone had what are they called? The ribbon geese with the blue ribbon on them.
Oh, right.
They had the dishes and the doormat and all that ribbon geese stuff. And it was just a time frame. So if you see any more calendars, Susan Wingate.
Okay.
They don't sell for hundreds of dollars, but it's something that people collect because her artwork is on it.
Interesting.
So yeah, don't throw nothing in the trash. Always look it up.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So you primarily go to estate sales or
yes,
go anywhere?
Primarily estate sales. Anytime I go to thrift stores anymore, I'm just like, I just get tired of looking through everything. And garage sales, you drive around so much.
Yes, it's a lot of in and out of the car.
Yeah.
You have to have a buddy on that. You have to have a driver.
Yeah. I really prefer the estate sales. I watch the estate sale companies. So I have a list actually of some that I won't go to that just aren't well run or they were rude or, whatever. That's a handful, right? Most of them are very nice to work with and stuff. So I really prefer to go to the estate sales. I like to go the last day when it's half price, which is also on Saturday here.
Right.
And I'm working Monday through Friday. So it's the day that works for me anyway. So it just kind of lines up. And My daughter was going with me when she was home this summer. She's away at college now, but she's a history major and she likes going and getting involved in the story of the person's life, especially if it's an older person, and they have she's got some really cool, like old atlases and different things like that. There's just so many treasures to be found out there.
Yes, there are. And, speaking of her being interested in the older people, I wish I had sat down with my grandmother with the tape recorder and just talked to her. I mean, what
Yeah.
teenagers interested in when their grandmother was a teenager? But she was born in 1908 and she died in 93. And the things she must have seen in her lifetime,
Right.
cars and airplanes and technology and fashion changing and all that, just
Yeah.
that greatest generation, whatever they're called, they saw so many changes in their life.
Right.
And I
And they
commend your
saved a
daughter
lot
for
of
being
things too,
interested. And
because a
what?
lot of them they saved a lot of things too, because a lot of them went through the depression.
Yes, absolutely.
So I picked up at one of them, and a lot of this stuff I've learned. Your podcast I listen to more than anybody else's.
Oh, thank you.
I love the community you have, and the people are so helpful and kind. And it's just it's interesting. I'm honored to be on your podcast, and I always am learning something every time I listen.
Wonderful. Good.
But yeah, so it might be the vintage clothing seller that I learned from, that the vintage hosiery. So I was at an estate sale and picked up some of that, and
Good.
it just turns quickly, and it's just kind of cool to hold the stuff sometimes, where you're just like, where has this thing been? And that it's been preserved this whole time and it's still in the original box, and
Like the stories this thing could tell.
right? It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
I
It's
love that.
fascinating.
Yeah, I think I'm getting more and more into vintage stuff for that reason, because it is more interesting and
Yeah.
it's truly unique and it's only
Right.
going to get older.
Yeah.
And it's,
I picked up a skip bow game at an estate sale
yes.
for 50 cents. It was in like a velveteen box kind of thing, the original box and stuff. I don't remember. I just grabbed it. It was half price day and nobody had picked it up. It was, oh yeah, if I'd have gone full price day, it would have been $1,
Oh, big
I picked it
spender.
up for 50 cents.
Save those pennies.
Right? I think it sold for around $35 or $40. I don't remember. It was a pretty quick sale, but I remember getting home and counting the cards and just being like, oh, please, please, please. And it did have all the cards. So, but it's that stuff that you can't just find anywhere and someone's looking for it.
Well, and collectors, they just have rooms in their house with all this old stuff in it, and they just like to go in there, and it's like walking into a time capsule, just looking around at the old stuff and remembering. We're getting up there where we're remembering high school,
Right.
and we didn't have all this technology. You actually, I don't know, had to dial someone's number on the phone, and you hoped that their phone number didn't have a lot of zeros, because he had to wait for it to go all the way back around before he could dial it again.
And it was only 7 digits.
Right.
If the town was small enough, it was 4 digits.
And before call waiting, like you got a busy signal, and
Right.
there was no answering machines and just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of heartwarming. It's like, yeah, and us girls, we always had to have a dime in our pocket in case we had to call home from the payphone. And
That's
the
right.
other day somebody said, "What's a payphone?"
Yeah.
Now I'm feeling old. Yeah. So I was going to tell you a while back when you were talking about thrift stores and stuff, and yeah, it's kind of predictable, but I went this morning because it was senior day. I got my discount,
Yeah.
and there was a big sign in the front. It was a church thrift store. It said, "Sewing notions, fill a bag for $5." And I'm like, what? This is like mostly clothes and shoes and linens and stuff. And I was like, what? Maybe it's some of that yarn that's discontinued, or
Yeah.
sewing machine parts or something. So I went back there and looked, and the company Dritz, DRITZ, that makes all kinds of sewing stuff. Apparently they have a manufacturing plant here in South Carolina, and they've changed their logo. And so they didn't want to sell
Oh.
anything with the old logo on it.
Ah.
So I bought, it was an IKEA bag full of knitting needles. Like they're plastic or some kind of, they're not metal. And there's two in a box. And I looked it up to see how much they would sell for. And I think I'm gonna do them in lots of two packs. And I also bought a huge bag of sewing machine light bulbs.
Really?
And I'm thinking, because it was so cheap. And
Yeah,
I had a
right.
$5 coupon, so those were actually free. I'm like, well, that's something that you can put in your store, make a lot of 2 or 3 or however they sell best, and then have a quantity of 50 or however many you have.
Right, right.
See, I love finding stuff like that that's
Yeah.
repeatable. It may not be a huge sale, but you just have to set up the listing one time.
Exactly.
And who knows how long it'll take to sell out. But I was shocked. I'd never seen anything like that in the store. It's normally clothes and shoes and overpriced health and beauty products behind the glass
Yeah.
counter at the front.
Right, right.
But yeah, you just never know. And so when I was checking out, I asked the cashier, I'm like, what kind of deal can you give me on these knitting needles? And she's like, are you getting ready to knit some things? I was like, no. However, I'm going to sell these to people who will knit some things.
That's exactly right.
And I asked her,
exactly
like,
right.
what's the deal with all this stuff? And she told me, and I said, wow, that seems kind of wasteful, doesn't it? That they couldn't just sell out of the old logo. And she says, and it's a church thrift store. And she says, well, it's just a blessing to us, and it's going to be a blessing to you. You're great. So, yeah, the odd and unusual, and never hesitate to pick up new in the package stuff if you can make money on it.
Right, right.
So anyway, okay, well, we're getting to the end here. Any final words or advice to new people? Because you sure have done a great job being so new.
Oh, thanks. Advice to new people, I would say, when you're looking at something that you're going to buy, think through the shipping.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've picked stuff up that it's, even if it's a great seller, and it's like when it sells, I'm like, oh, now I have to ship it and figure out how I'm going to do this, So I would say make sure you know how you're going to ship it. And then for me too, does it need cleanup? Do I need to test it? Oh, I mean, that's my death pile. Things that need cleanup, that need to be tested, or like shoes.
Isn't that what a husband is for?
I know, right? I need to get down in my warehouse and do some work.
If you do this pile of stuff, we'll have pizza tonight.
Right?
Yeah.
But like I have a pile of shoes down there. We got a really good deal on them. And when we were brand new at this, we're just picking up shoes for $2 a piece for the pairs. They were really good, and there's some good ones in there. But they need some cleanup a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I cleaned up a couple pair, and I'm like, I hate this. I hate cleaning shoes. I hate listing them, So as I've gone through this, I learned I don't pick up shoes anymore unless they're brand new. I don't have to do anything to them except take a couple pictures. I'll pick them up. If they're going to require any cleanup, they're just going to sit there. They're going to sit there on the shelf and go, you're not going to ever list me. I need to just donate them.
$50 you're never going to get.
Right? Either that or buckle down and get them listed.
I kind of overbought on the fancy Bridgerton gloves, and I got so sick of listing them. So I just decided it's one pair a day until I'm done. I'm not going to sit down there and do 25 pairs. It's like my head would explode.
What's a Bridgerton glove?
Oh, okay. So the little fancy sheer lace gloves at the tea parties and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I bought a bunch of them on online auctions, and I think I got 40 pairs because when I had my back pain, I wasn't leaving home very much. So I was trying to figure out how to do this online and buy lightweight items, smalls.
Right.
These gloves. And so they're beautiful. Some are pink, some are, have the pearl buttons, some are opera length. They're all beautiful, but when you have 25, 40 of something, you just can't sit there and do them one after the other all day. I got to
Yeah.
mix it up.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
pair of
bought some gloves.
gloves, then something else, and keep it interesting.
I bought some vintage gloves at an estate sale, and it was a variety of different ones. Some of them were like that. I don't know what brands they were and stuff. And they had the box that they were all stored in one box. And I had heard somewhere that gloves did well, and I listed them all in one lot. It took quite a while to sell them. They sold just a few weeks ago, but I bet they were listed for about 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
the buyer, when they got them, I got real nice positive feedback on it, and they just loved the gloves. So that was nice. It's a
Yeah,
little
yeah. I
history
mean, I
again.
have sold regular gloves, like leather gloves, cashmere lined, really nice driving gloves. And I thought, well, I'm going to try these. And Bridgerton is that show on Netflix that
Yeah, right.
takes place in the Regency era, and they're very fancy and they're having tea parties. And so people do these Bridgerton parties and they dress up like that.
Oh, I
And,
didn't know
they'll
that was
do it
happening.
for um, birthdays or bridal showers, or it's a theme. And so
Okay.
as soon as I saw those gloves, I was like, those would be perfect for Bridgerton costumes.
Yeah, right.
Coming up on Halloween, got costumes, and I don't know. It was just I kind of put together this product I saw with a current trend. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and the most valuable ones are the crochet.
Okay.
They call them summer crochet gloves, but those are for like $35 because they're handmade.
Wow.
Some of them will say handmade in Italy on the tag. Some of them don't say anything, but uh,
Uh,
yeah, I'm always paying attention to these trends, um, and my daughter tells me a lot because different generations. Like, did you know this is going on, Mom? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
yeah.
I don't. That's not my generation.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, okay. Well, thank you for making time to chat with me today and to be on the podcast. And we will look for more of your sales on the Facebook group.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Okay, instead of a trivia question or fun fact or motivational quote, today I have a follow up on something we talked about. Tanya mentioned selling Partylight items. And yes, the company is still in business and they are good sellers on eBay. So here is a little bit about the company and why people like this brand. Okay, and this is from the Partylight website. Let's talk about the founder. In the early 1900s, a school teacher named Mabel Baker embarked on a candle making journey in her kitchen, nestled in her native Cape Cod, Massachusetts community. She handcrafted exquisite candles, coloring and adding fragrance to them using wild berries. Initially, she gifted them to family and friends and soon realized that her love for this craft could be transformed into a business. With a strong sense of grit, determination, and her entrepreneurial spirit, Mabel began selling her candles in 1909. Her success and innovative spirit helped build a strong and thriving business that grew consistently through decades until her passing in 1965. At that time, her candle business was worth an impressive $6 million. But the story didn't end there. In 1973, Mabel Baker's Candle Company established a subsidiary called Partylight Gifts. At this pivotal time, Partylight introduced a groundbreaking sales model. Instead of selling to companies as a wholesale business, Partylight empowered individuals and provided them with products, selling tools, and incentives for sharing Partylight and driving brand awareness, ultimately sharing profits with them. This innovative approach took off, leading to Partylight being offered as a direct selling brand across the globe. Partylight is now a thriving customer-focused direct-to-customer brand with a robust brand ambassador program that generously supports former Partylight consultants. What hasn't changed through the year is our unwavering commitment to quality, innovation, and customer satisfaction. A commitment we're convinced will take us into the next 50 years. So, about their candles, clean burn. That's what people like, is they are clean burn candles. Cruelty free, never tested on animals, non-toxic, free of parabens, and a bunch of other words I'm not going to try to pronounce. Made lead-free with 100% natural wicks. They also contain essential oils, and they have a conscious, stylish design. So people love the brand for those reasons, as well as it is established and has been around for over 100 years. Okay, so now you know that about Partylight, and when you see those out there in the world, take a second look and see what they're worth. Next week, my guest is yet another Cheryl. I've had lots of Cheryls on the show. She will share her eBay journey and her wisdom about reselling. So make sure you tune in next week and keep working hard. Remember, sometimes we don't see the fruits of our labor until later. For example, I sold an item last week that I've had for 3 years. It finally sold. So keep the faith and don't give up. The next sale could happen at any second. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.